There are women who walk through life with a tough exterior, a quiet defensiveness, not because they are cold, but because they are guarding something incredibly sacred and fragile within. They are not loud, not boisterous. They choose a way of life that many people do not understand, and so the world calls them closed off or hard to reach. But in truth, sometimes this solitude is not a sign of lack, but rather a necessary space for healing, a journey back to the truest home deep inside oneself. In today's video, we will go through 8 slices of truth, very personal and very real, inside the soul of a Cancer woman. Each section is a small journey, from choosing a protective shell to the inner strength of self-nurturing, to the very human loneliness, and then to the gentle light of finding peace. You don't need to remember or follow every part. Just listen with your heart, because who knows, somewhere in that journey, there might be a part of you waiting to be touched. And if you are feeling overly sensitive, different, or left behind, then this video is for you. And now, if you're ready, let's begin the first chapter of this journey. A journey that begins in silence, but holds an entire warm home within. There are women who seem to be born not belonging to the noise. They don't like crowds. They're not good at wearing the mask of strength that society expects. They live in an ocean of emotions and memories that others cannot see. And sometimes, they are lonely, not because no one loves them, but because no one truly understands the world inside their soul's home. Cancer is one such soul. A woman who carries the instinct to care for and shelter the entire universe. She can feel the unnamed sorrow in a stranger's eyes. She can worry about someone's pain just from hearing a few stories, and she can love someone with all her heart simply because she sees in them a longing to be safe, to be comforted. The inner world of a Cancer is not loud, but it is profoundly deep and filled with memories. It holds not only her own history, but also the wounds of many people who have crossed her path. She remembers the smallest things with intense emotion. A careless word, a look that no longer feels warm, a forgotten promise. All are stored within her, like a diary that never fades. And because she feels so much, sometimes she chooses to step back, to close her door. Not because she doesn't need anyone, but because too many superficial presences make her feel unsafe and estranged from herself. She chooses solitude not because she has no other choice, but because no one is sincere enough, safe enough, patient enough to stay. While she is always ready to build a nest for someone with everything she has, people often come to her only with what is convenient for them. And so, after many times of being hurt, misunderstood, and left behind, she begins to understand that not everyone deserves to be invited into the sacred home of her soul. She does not choose to walk alone because she is weak, but because no one respects the frequency of her heart. On some level, this is no longer a choice, but becomes an inner vow. To rather live truthfully in silence than pretend to connect in empty relationships. For Cancer, solitude is no longer a wound. It is a safe space, a sanctuary she needs in order to grow. It is the time the universe gives her to clear out what no longer belongs, to learn to comfort herself, and to quietly begin the journey of rebuilding her home from within. On life's journey, there will come a time when we must walk alone, not because we were left behind, but because we are heading toward a place that not everyone is safe enough to walk alongside. There are paths that only one soul is allowed to walk through, because that is where the soul must face itself, must heal its old wounds, and must remember why it came here. Cancer doesn't walk fast. She walks carefully to listen to each of her steps. She doesn't need a rushed destination, because to her, every moment of feeling safe is a miracle. While others rush to be recognized, to be loved, to be seen, Cancer only wishes to feel the world in the most genuine way, even if that means feeling pain. And from those very feelings, she begins to realize loneliness is not the enemy. It is a teacher, the one who silently stayed with her through the days no one called her name, the one who taught her how to hold herself when there was no shoulder left to lean on, the one who trained her inner strength, a soft strength, quiet but so steady that nothing can shake it. There are souls whose mere presence is a shelter, but not everyone is quiet enough to feel that warmth. Cancer knows this well. She no longer blames, no longer mourns those who cannot stay, because she understands. Those who cannot feel her simply are not deep enough to reach her world, and that's okay. Have you ever felt too sensitive, too sincere, too different? Have you ever been seen as weak just because you couldn't hide your tender heart? If so, please know you are not alone. There are many like you, learning to stand tall in a world not yet ready to embrace gentle souls. And if you are in that journey, I hope you stay till the end of this video, because maybe this is the first place where you are truly seen. And then, when Cancer realizes that not everyone deserves her care, she comes to understand something even deeper, that no one but herself can save her wounded heart. But have you ever wondered, where does Cancer's true strength come from, if not from someone out there? Perhaps one of the most important lessons a Cancer woman can ever learn in her life is this: no one out there can shelter her, except herself. I once lived for a long time, feeling like I needed someone beside me to feel whole. I used to think my value lay in the way someone looked at me, in the care of a dear friend, or in the recognition from my family. I was dependent, I was fragile, I was vulnerable. And every time someone left, I asked myself, am I worthy of love? But when I began to observe the Cancer women around me, I started to see something far deeper and more sacred. These women have never not been broken. On the contrary, they have loved to the core and been disappointed just as deeply. But the difference is, they chose to rise without waiting for anyone to save them. They realized at that very moment, when they were lying there on the cold floor, with tears streaming endlessly and a heart shattered beyond repair, that no one could truly come in and mend it for them. Not their best friend, not the lover who once promised to be there forever, and certainly not someone out there willing to run in and embrace their wounds. And it was in that moment that their inner strength was awakened, not in the form of fierce determination, not a proud declaration, but a quiet realization. They were still breathing, they were still here, they still had a chance to be reborn, even if no one held their hand through the darkness. Cancer began to understand that independence is not about appearing strong in front of others. Independence is her promise to her own heart that from today on, she will no longer give away that precious heart unconsciously. She will no longer place her emotions in someone else's hands to be at their mercy. Instead, she keeps her softness, but now that softness is protected by a deeply mature inner strength. The independence she gained is not isolation. It is the ability to walk through this world without depending on praise or fearing criticism. It is the ability to remain gentle without being wounded by careless words. It is the ability to give love without losing herself when someone walks out of her life. She no longer needs someone to text her every night just to feel loved, because she has learned to hold herself, to whisper to herself, I'm okay, and I am worthy of love, even if no one else sees it. She has gone through long nights where she lay there, hugging herself in the dark. There were times she cried without sound because the pain had squeezed every corner of her heart. But each morning, even with tears not yet dry, she still got up, got out of bed, and kept going. Not because she was strong, but because she believed she deserved a better life. That is the deepest thing I've learned from Cancer women. Not rigid resilience, not outward strength, but a kind of quiet faith that only those who've shattered and risen again can understand. A faith that tomorrow will be gentler than today, and that she can keep going, even when no one saw how fragile she was the night before. Have you ever gone through days like that? Have you ever had to pretend to be strong, pretend to be okay, pretend you didn't need anyone, when all you really wanted was for someone to see the tender heart behind your tough exterior? If you have, please tell me what helped you stand tall during those days. Maybe it was a word, a book, a song, or just the quiet voice inside that gently reminded you that you are not alone. I truly want to hear your story, because I believe when you tell your story, you don't just heal yourself. You are also helping countless others walking silently in the dark realize that they are not as alone as they think. I used to think that the more independent a woman is, the colder she becomes. But when I truly observed the Cancer women who had matured on their own journeys, I saw something entirely different. Their independence did not come with coldness. On the contrary, their hearts became even warmer than ever. They don't reject relationships. They just no longer want to trade their precious inner peace for half-hearted connections. For a Cancer woman who has endured enough pain, a true relationship must mean something far beyond material or fleeting emotional benefits. To her, a relationship is not a crutch or a place to hide from loneliness. Instead, it is a sacred meeting of two souls who have already healed themselves, are whole on their own, and willingly choose to be together, not out of fear of being alone, but because they truly see and cherish each other with all their gratitude. She doesn't need large gatherings, doesn't need a big group to feel accepted by society. What she needs, the one thing her heart always longs for, is a genuine embrace when the world feels cold, a deep gaze that sees through her strong exterior, and a soul quiet enough to hear the silent cries she never dared to speak. And even if she never finds those things in anyone, she still chooses to live kindly. Not because she needs someone to notice, not for social approval, but simply because that is who she is. A Cancer's kindness comes straight from her heart, entirely independent of whether or not anyone sees it. She seeks a sacred space where she can truly be herself, without needing to toughen up, without needing to prove anything. For Cancer, loneliness is not failure. Loneliness is a doorway, a gateway to a deep inner light that has never been explored. When the outside world has no one left to lean on, that is the very moment she hears, for the first time, the voice from deep within her soul, a voice she never dared to listen to before, too busy trying to please everyone else. And that is the most sacred gift loneliness offers. In a world too noisy, full of expectations, pressure, and definitions of happiness imposed by others, solitude is not frightening. Solitude is a precious opportunity to truly listen, to heal, and to understand oneself. There are questions that only in complete solitude does Cancer have the courage to ask herself honestly. What do I truly want? And when the answer echoes from the deepest place inside her, not for anyone, not for the desire to be loved, but simply because she wants to live true to her soul, that is the moment she truly grows. And then, from that very stillness and solitude, Cancer begins to recognize her greatest strength, the strength that comes from the ability to self-heal, to self-love, and to trust in her own worth, something she could never find outside of herself. The true strength of a Cancer doesn't lie in the fact that she never sheds tears. Her strength lies in the fact that she dares to allow herself to cry out all the pain she's held in her heart for too long. But after every tear falls, she wipes them away herself, stands up, and moves forward. not with bitterness or regret, but with a deep gratitude that she is still alive, still feeling, still loving. Cancer never denies her emotions. Instead, she learns to embrace them, to accept them as an essential part of the human journey. She understands that she has the right to be hurt, to be vulnerable, to fall apart. But above all, she always has the right to be gentle with herself. And from that very gentleness, a silent strength begins to grow. She once loved until she was shattered, once hoped until she was drained. But then, in the deepest silence, she touched something sacred that no one out there could ever take away from her. Her heart, still capable of feeling, still longing to love, still holding light. In that very moment, Cancer realized that her resilience didn't come from anyone else, but from a heart that had been broken too many times, yet never gave up on love, on kindness, and on a future worth living for. Have you ever stopped for a moment to forgive yourself? For trying too hard to please others? For loving those who didn't deserve your love? For those nights you blamed yourself for being too soft, too vulnerable? If you have, I want you to know you are not alone. Leave a message for your heart in the comments. A message that you are beautiful while healing, that you are beautiful when you are brave enough to forgive, to let go, to love yourself once again. And from that deep self-forgiveness, Cancer begins to see more clearly what truly matters in her life. She chose to live true to the person inside her, chose not to be loved by others, but to be at peace with her own heart every night before falling asleep. And from that very moment, she entered a new chapter of courage, the chapter of living completely true to herself, even when the whole world outside cannot understand. Society always has a standard script for women. They tell us we must be gentle but not too emotional, strong but certainly know how to sacrifice and endure. Those expectations become a tiny box that forces women to shrink themselves just to fit the desires of everyone around them. But Cancer, she was not born to live within those small limits. She does not live to become the version someone else expects. She came into this world to be herself, a sensitive soul, full of compassion, and always ready to spread care in her purest way. She once tried to live how others wanted, tried to hide her tears at night, tried to suppress her intense emotions because she was afraid others would call her too weak, too emotional. But the more she tried to become someone else, the more she felt herself disappearing. And then one day, she chose to return to her true self, knowing full well she would be misunderstood, judged. But you know what? She's not weak. She's just brave enough to live honestly, something not everyone has the courage to do. I used to be terrified of the emptiness that came with having no one by my side. But then I met Cancer women. They taught me an invaluable lesson. Someone with few friends isn't someone who's been left behind. They are someone who has found the most sacred friend of all, themselves. Cancer is not lonely. She is being protected by life, being guided by her soul away from unworthy relationships, from people who can't see the light within her. She is learning how to befriend her own soul before anyone else enters her life again. I understand that in the moments when others slowly leave, when conversations become silent, it is also the moment another door gently opens. A door that doesn't lead to the outside world, but into the very heart of her being. It is a sacred journey where she sees herself with truly gentle eyes for the first time. She no longer looks in the mirror to seek validation from anyone else, because her heart has now learned to trust in her own unconditional worth. Are you walking alone? Do you feel lost in a world that's too vast, too noisy, and sometimes too cold? If you are, please take a moment to pause. Leave a message for yourself in the comments. A small, gentle note, nothing fancy, just something honest. Because right now, your soul truly needs to hear that from you. A message that says, you have not abandoned yourself, and you will always be here, gently holding your own wounded heart. I want you to remember that even if today you have no one beside you, even if you're still carrying everything in silence, you have never truly been alone. There is a Cancer woman inside you, strong, growing, and slowly returning to her own light. And if there are days when everything feels too much, please remember this: you are not lost on this journey. You are simply becoming the woman your soul has always longed to be. Gentle, profound, healing, and true to herself. The journey back to yourself is always the most beautiful and meaningful one. And when you return to your heart, when you truly learn how to love yourself deeply, you are also healing the world around you. You are not lost. You are simply walking slowly, because your soul needs to be listened to more carefully. You don't have to be strong all the time. You just need to be honest with yourself, because a Cancer woman, even when no one stands beside her, can still become the warmest home in this world. If this video touches you, leave a comment for yourself, a note of gratitude, a self-reminder, or just a small, quiet sign. Enough for your soul to know that you are still here and you have never abandoned yourself. Let the universe know you are ready for a new journey, one where you no longer have to struggle just to be loved. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this, please share the video as your way of helping to heal the world. You are not alone. You are simply coming home, and that is breathtakingly beautiful.